am going to clean out the mealworm drawers. I've gotten really busy and I've kind of slacked on taking care of those drawers. So everything's in the wrong spot. Nothing is separated like it's supposed to be. So I'm going to take you along and show you how much work it is when you get behind on the drawers and how much work it is just to keep up on them. Part of breeding bearded dragons, you should raise your own bugs. So it's kind of an extra responsibility you have while breeding bearded dragons. I've got a friend with me today because he's causing a lot of trouble with his siblings. Really need to find him a home because he's just not liking playing nicely. But hope you guys enjoy. This drawer here is supposed to only have the mealworms in it. That's the mealworms. As you can see, it's got everything but just mealworms in it. We have a lot of beetles, which I've got to try to clear out and put into the right drawer, which is right above this actually. We have a beetle drawer. They like to hang out in those little tubes, so sometimes that makes it a little bit easier to empty it. Not as easy as I'd like this to be. This is a process and a half. When you let them get this overrun, what we usually try to do is we try to get all the cocoons out. These guys here. Well, they're cocoons. And we put them into a container like that. I'll usually have food in there too, but I don't have any food in there right now. But when you let it get this overrun, you now have those cocoons have transformed over to beetles, and you've got beetles overrunning your drawer. The problem with keeping beetles in with the worms and everything is sometimes they will start eating the worms, especially if you don't have a big enough area for them. We keep them in just a small drawer system, so there's not a huge area. Beetles don't have a very long lifespan, so I'm actually pulling out some dead ones right now. They just don't have a very long lifespan. Usually it's only around 3 weeks. So with how long it's been since I've done anything, we are going to have both live and dead in here. But I usually try to keep up on this a little bit better so this doesn't happen. But I just haven't kept up on it lately. Been too busy with everything, and this kind of fell to the wayside. Now, you never really always get all of them because they bury themselves. This bedding is kind of thick. It's thicker than I'd like to have it. But it is what it is. So finding them is kind of hard sometimes because they bury underneath the bedding. Now, if some don't know, the beetle is part of the life cycle of a mealworm. When you go to the pet store and you buy your little container of mealworms for your bearded dragon, for your lizard, you're getting technically the beginning cycle of the beetle, because that mealworm will cocoon in. Pretty sure it's called a chrysalis, if I remember correctly. And that will eventually form legs, or you'll see the legs come out of the cocoon, and they turn into these beetles. The beetles are then what breed and create more mealworms, and there goes the cycle again. So, when you get those mealworms, at some point, if you don't feed them off, if they don't die before then, this is what you'll get. You will get beetles. We've got a lot of them right now because we did go ahead and order a large number right when the babies started being born to up our feeders. And in turn, a lot of those mealworms did turn over now into the beetles. This is just one of those jobs that you kind of, when you overlook it for too long, you end up going, well, it doesn't need to be done that bad, does it? And you just keep on leaving it. It's why you want to keep up on this and not let this happen. Now, there are people that do leave all of them together and they just leave them as is, but we don't like doing that, like I said, because they do sometimes eat the cocoons then or eat the worms, and it slows down your production. Now, what we do with the setup, we do have this set up so that way the beetles, which are in that top drawer, I'm trying to get them out of the corner there because they like spending time in corners. There we go. I'm trying to run right back to the corner after I get them out. The worms and the beetles like the corners. But we have it set up so at the top container, we cut out the middle and we put some, let's see if I can't move this around, some screen. You can kind of see it at the bottom there. Some screen underneath. The beetles can't fit through that screen, but when they lay their eggs for the mealworms, that will fit in the screen. Trying to reset this back up now. So the eggs will fall through into this container here, and they'll hatch into mealworms. So the setup is ultimately designed to reduce the amount of work we have to do. Because the mealworms, when they are born, are very, very small, very hard to see. We used to not have it set up this way, and we tried to find the mealworms, and that's pretty well impossible until they get bigger. So this just saves a little bit of time by having it set up that way. But when you let it get behind like this, your time saved is kind of minimal because there's just a mess to clean up now. And I am seeing worms in here, but I'm not seeing as many as I'd like to see. But we do have a lot of beetles in here, so a lot of my worms could have already converted over to beetle. I'm also feeding them off pretty fast right now because of the baby bearded dragons. They go through at least 48 to 60 a day, usually more than that even. So they go through these guys pretty fast. So the worms that we do have are kind of being eaten off. But we have plenty of beetles to resupply us. Though if you're planning on breeding any type of lizard, really, bearded dragon, gecko, any of those lizards, you really do want to consider getting into some sort of feeder that you're going to breed because of how much they go through. If you have to buy this food every single day, it gets really expensive. Raising baby lizards of any kind gets pretty expensive. Like I said, our bearded dragon was bred one time, and we have had 3 clutches off of her. She appears to be done, but sometimes they can surprise you. We have a friend that's a breeder that had 4 clutches last year off one female, and she didn't lay another clutch. So he thought she was done, and at the very end of the season, about 3 months later, she laid 2 more clutches. Wasn't expected on his part. She had not been with a male again. She just, for whatever reason, took a break between her laying of the eggs. So there's always that chance, even though we think our female is done, she could lay more eggs later into the season. Look, there's a nice sized worm. Not seeing as many worms. Okay, we are down to this drawer here. There are a lot of the Krystalists in here. And as you can see, quite a few beetles are on the toilet paper rolls again. I'm seeing more worms in this drawer as well. A lot more of the cocoons. There's a nice sized worm right there. It's about full-size mealworm. You don't get much bigger than that. But that's a mealworm. I'm sure I did not get all of them, but I got most of them at this point, I can see. I'm sure I'm going to find more. The newer a beetle you have, the lighter the beetle will be. You see how this guy is kind of a light brown. Most of them that I was pulling out were black. And when they first change over, they're pretty much a white color with a brown head. So flip over. Right there, that one's pretty dark in color. Tell that's an older one. These beetles do have wings, but they don't tend to fly. I'm pretty confident I got most of them out of here. I'm sure more will appear. But I'm pretty confident I got most of them. That's just some of the cocoons I got. But that is the general idea of how you would clean out the mealworms. Separate them like they're supposed to be. That's the differences about everything and how it's set up. It's not that hard, it's just time consuming.